everybody. Welcome to the Two Devs and a Dude podcast presented by Wraith Games. I'm Jay Kidd, creative director at Wraith Games, and I'm joined by my co-hosts.
I'm Cajun Coder. I am a host of the IndieView Podcast and a game developer working on my first game, Rocket Box.
And I am the dude, I guess, of this podcast, Grant McClure of GameOver GameOn.
So yeah, this is our very first episode, the pilot. So we're going to be making all sorts of mistakes, and we're going to be taking all sorts of risks right here. But I hope that you enjoy and stick around for episode 2, 3, and beyond. So the big point of this podcast right here is for us to do every 2 weeks. We're going to get together and talk about interesting things in game news. We're going to talk about them, and then we're going to explain them to the audience, do some discussion, and then we're going to tell you how you're going to be able to get involved. And then the other episodes we do, 2 episodes a month, is going to be us playing a particular game, and we're going to be joined by a rotating fourth seat of guests, someone in the game industry. And we're going to do it sort of like a book club for games. We're all going to play the games separately, and then come together and discuss them. So why don't we start this off with Grant's article today? That way you can sort of get a feel for what kind of flavor we have to offer you. So Grant, why don't you pick that on up?
All right. So basically, anyone who's in the has, I guess, their thumb on the pulse, not thumb on the pulse, but that's the wrong way. So if anyone who's kind of paying attention to the gaming industry right now, one of the hot topics is gun control and violence in video games, because due to the shooting that happened in Florida. First started with, the first actual article that was picked up, I believe, was Polygon or Kotaku, one of those two. I'm not exactly sure, but it is the governor of the great state that I live in, Kentucky. But Matt Bevin was on a radio show, and he talked about how the reason why there's violence, he blames the violence that's going on with the youth on the culture and violence in video games. Since it's kind of close to home, with with the governor of my state's involvement, that's why I wanted to talk about it. But going further into, we also have Trump going into it and him discussing that. But we're going to keep this non-political. We're not going to discuss the governor. We're not going to discuss the president. We're only going to keep this to the point of games culture, the violence in video games, and the influence, I guess, that it has on people.
I mean, I guess it's probably a pretty good thing that you're going to try to keep it apolitical, mostly just because we don't want our readers or our listeners to tune out on the very first episode, but also because one of us, me, I'm from Ohio, so I know nothing about Kentucky politics. And then Cajun, you're from Texas, right?
Yeah, I'm Southeast Texas.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were from Louisiana. That's why your name was Cajun, but wow.
Well, my last name is Cajun, and I grew up literally, Orange, Texas is where I grew up, and the city limit is the state border. We are the easternmost town in Texas.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. So, yeah.
So even though it's technically Texas, it's still very much Cajun country in some respects.
Okay.
All right. So I don't think you know much about Kentucky politics either.
No, it's. I don't even want to get into it because it makes me very angry and stuff, and it's very different from my political view. So I'm not going to get into the current state of Kentucky's political climate.
I agreed, and I think us going at it from a non-political view, I mean, everyone expects this to be, here's the political view, you're either with it or you're against it. And I think us approaching this from a non-political view as gamers, how we view the violence in games ourselves, is a little bit different than what most people would be expecting. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So who wants to speak? I can speak my piece, or you all can say your thing and elaborate, or whatever.
Well, this is
your article, so go ahead, man.
Discussion-y.
Okay, my whole view on it. Yes, video games are violent. Everyone knows that. But those games, we have the ESRB, which was established in the 90s because of the violence that was in video games, because people are afraid about the influence it would have on our youth. Okay, that's already there. So there's no need for Trump to meet and do all this other stuff. So, and then in the 90s, we also had this huge attack on the games industry anyways, because of the controversy of GTA. Because if anyone's been around is my age or a little older, they understand what's his name?
Jack Thompson.
Jack Thompson, yeah. Wasn't he Florida governor?
Mm-hmm. That sounds right.
I think so. He was, governor. He was a senator, someone Florida or some southern state. And he was attacking the games industry and wanted to ban them and regulate them and reduce violence and all this other stuff. So that was in the 90s. So my first thought when this whole article came out was, are we really back to this point where we're blaming entertainment for violence? And I'm going to try to keep this also non-gun control and all this other stuff. Just strictly games, and it's going to be very difficult for me to try to say that without, So violence in video games, in my perspective, it hasn't affected me. And as a father of 2 kids, I understand that you want to shelter. As a parent, you're supposed to shelter your children. The game's rated M for mature for a reason. You should not buy it for your child, even if the child wants it. I don't play games that are rated teen or mature around Roxas. I don't do it because I guess I'm a proper parent. And also I'm conscious of what I'm doing as a gamer to not expose my child to things that their mind isn't really developed for.
Exactly. I'm with you, dude, because I've got a 5-year-old. I don't think shelter is the right term. Because as parents, sheltering gives a connotation that we're trying to keep the bad things in the world hidden from them. And at least with my son, bad things happen. We would go out in the backyard when he was like 2 and 3, and he would step on the bug, stuff like that, and I would teach him, about death, and as much as a toddler kind of saying, when you squish that, it stops moving, it's done for good, and so we have, as parents, we have to coach the kids through life. We have to guide them, not necessarily shelter them from it, but expose them to parts that they can understand and handle as they reach a maturity level that they can conceptually understand things.
Yeah. Now, the thing is that I'm not a parent, even remotely. I'm not a big fan of kids in general. I know the amount of can of worms that's going to open up.
No,
but I do have.
I'm sorry, but you do understand the concept behind that, though. So you're selling yourself short.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, I actually I have a nephew. I say nephew. He's the son of a friend of mine. And I'm not gonna use his name on air. I don't think he'd want that. Though I don't know. No, hopefully he's listening, and hopefully he'll let me know whether or not I should have used his name or not. But anyway, the thing is that. When his son was fairly young, 6 or 7, he would, on occasion, let him play teen and M-rated games. And the interesting thing behind this was that he, as a father, played all of these games completely through from start to finish. And what he did is say, no, my son is ready for the content in here, because not all M-rated games and not all teen-rated games are universal. They're not all the same reasons they're rated teen or M. And there were definitely points where he's like, no, my son will definitely not play this game because it's way too sexualized. It's way too violent. He has an understanding of his kid's needs and, an understanding of where his child is developmentally, to know what he can and cannot handle. And I just think that there are so many parents, even parents who claim to be actively involved in the lives of their children's entertainment and things like that, who don't really want to understand anything about the ESRB. They don't really want to say, okay, I'm going to say no to my child because I realize this game is objectionable.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of sad, but we have my friend right here. He's personally vetting out every single game that he plays, and I think that might be a little too much for some parents, but at the same time, he also has a keen understanding of how the ESRB works, and I don't see that in a lot of parents. It's sad.
Well, we're also from a different generation. Like if I was my parents didn't care what I would play. I'm trying to keep this PG because I guess we want to try to broaden the audience, and I'm trying not going to use a lot of profanity. It's very hard for me, very hard.
Oh yeah.
My parents didn't know. They saw the ESRB, whatever. They didn't care. They really didn't care. If I wanted a game, but also I guess my parents understood that I would understand it, because by the time video games were getting to the point where they were violent, and like when GTA 3 came out, I was 14, 15 years old, and it's rated M, but I'm almost an adult. And I was in middle school, going into high school, stuff like that. So I guess they assumed that I would have the mental capacity to understand what was going on in the game, and to understand that it is fantasy, it's fiction. This is not real life.
Mm.
So, but
I would kind of expect any even early teenagers to have the basic moral comprehension that if you can't just go around acting like the character in any of the GTA games, where you just hijack cars and can beat people with a pipe or a gun. It's just, I feel like that's a very basic part of being a member of society.
Yeah.
It's actually... Oops, sorry.
So go ahead, Jay.
It's actually pretty funny because I remember two things. One was an actual study that was done a few years ago where they had kids watch, it was kids and adults actually, watch clips of violent acts inside of movies. And then they would also have them watch clips of actual violent acts. And I think they hooked them up to polygraph tests. And no, it wasn't polygraph. It was something else. It was something that like
the brain thing where they put the little cage or something over their head that's supposed to pick up brain signatures or something.
Yeah, exactly. The parts of their brain that lit up for the real violence was very, very different. And they also would ask them. They would talk to the people after they saw what they saw, and the people were incredibly disturbed by the real violence. Even though in many cases it was a lot less flashy. Like one of the clips was a gentleman committing suicide, and you just basically, and I actually watched the clip myself because I was watching a documentary on the study, and they included it. It was a loud bang. The man dropped to the floor, and that was it. There was no blood. There anything like that. He just bang, drop, and it was viscerally unsettling. And people who watch clips, including that and clips of others, were really taken aback by what was real, showing that even at early ages, you are capable of separating what is real violence and what isn't. And I think that there are a lot of sociologists who agree that that's the case.
Yeah. And but in speaking of that branches off from the video game part goes into the little bit of that some people of society and the violent crimes that have been committed via gun violence possibly were not of an average mental state, or the social norm mental state, and that they were possibly disturbed or had deficiencies in their coping capabilities and stuff like that. But
it's kind of fascinating. 2 points on this. Point number one is there's the great question of, does violent media breed more violent people, or are violent people merely more attracted to violent media? And one of the things that leads right in from that is oftentimes news outlets, what they'll do is they'll report on someone who has done something terrible, like mass shooters and things, and they will, instead of saying, "Oh, here's all this information," they'll look and say, "Hey, did this person play violent video games, or did this person play video games at all?" And what's fascinating to realize is most people play video games.
Oh yeah.
like the idea of a gamer is non-existent anymore. As much as I self-identify as a gamer, the idea that there's just one particular set of person who plays video games is ludicrous. Especially when you also consider that the average player of games is in their 40s to 50s. Both male and female.
I'm just thinking, in the age of the iPhone and Android everywhere, how many, grandmas that you wouldn't expect to be a gamer are level 800 on freaking Bubble Pop or Bejeweled or whatever, the Angry Birds. I mean, how many 3 and 4 year olds have mastered mobile games that the three of us would go, okay, I'm done with after like an hour, you know?
Yeah.
Gamers it's everyone, everywhere.
I think there does still need to be a distinction made between, violent video games and non-violent video games in this discussion. I'm not saying that, like, the media is necessarily saying all video games are inherently bad, but when they do focus in, they are specifically saying, did this person play violent video games? And when you look statistically at all the people who do play violent video games, it just seems like
it's almost everyone.
Like saying, it's like looking back in the 90s and said, oh, he watched Schwarzenegger movies, therefore he had to be a killer. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, who didn't watch Schwarzenegger movies, back in the 90s?
Yeah. It's like going back to the Columbine, even far back, like the most highbrow, which caused Jack Thompson to do the whole thing. Like, how out of all the teenage kids that played Doom, there were those two who did the Columbine stuff. They played Doom. They made mods and stuff but who else made mods for Doom? What other people their age played Doom and did not commit violent acts?
My concern about Doom, I love how you bring up Colorblind here, because this is actually really fascinating. They specifically made maps of their school in Doom. And they use that to do test runs of what they would do during the killing. Yeah. And that's weird, but at the same time, and this is a confession from me, and I didn't play Doom back in the day, but I was involved in game development from a fairly young age. I would make games. I was making mods for games using maps of my school. Nothing like killing anyone or anything like that. But at the same time,
it's just an easy reference point to be able to design a world, though.
Yeah, it's like
exactly
trying to you take it, like with my construction background. Like if I wanted to think about remodeling something, if I ever wanted to get into remodeling and stuff, where would the easiest way for me to start would be to take my house, a drawing of my house from my head, and be like, okay, if I had an infinite amount of money, how would I design this?
Yeah.
It's just you take something and then you cater it to something you want to learn.
Exactly. I think at that point they were using the tools and the reference points they had available to them, and then from that point, and I can't speculate on someone's psychological condition. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
But I think that maybe later that's when they sort of got the idea of, well, maybe we could do this for real. But that's an entirely different thing, because I think their case is uniquely fascinating.
Yeah.
In that they did indeed model their school in this game. Whereas if you look at all of the other cases, no one else did that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if any case could be made, at most, maybe Columbine. Maybe.
Yeah.
And even then it would be hard to argue.
But that's
but these others?
Yeah. But none of it falls back to the developer, though. The developer's intent was never to create a violent game or a game that has even hyper-violence as Doom. Even the new Doom, where it's bloody and visceral and gory and just, It's utterly gorgeous. It's beautiful. The game is itself. It's a fantastic and beautiful game. But, I mean, id Software didn't develop that game to create psychopathic children to commit violent crimes. That's not the developer's intentions. That's not what they meant to serve. The reason why they created it. They created to tell a story that's just happened to be the medium that the story has fallen into. And
it's actually pretty funny because id Software specifically, even before the ESRB was the thing, they were putting warning labels on their games. I remember the original Wolfenstein 3D, which was a favorite of mine growing up. When the first several times I went to go play it, it has that little warning before you play it, and it's like adults 13 plus, and I'm like, oh, this is risque, you know what I mean? To the point where I wasn't brave enough to play it until I was 13, which, because I'm a sucker like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh nope, the label says I can't play it. But even pre-ESRB, they were not making these things for unsupervised people. They were saying, no, we do not feel this is appropriate.
Yeah.
They knew that their demographic would be the more mature people, adults, pretty much.
Yeah,
late
absolutely.
teenagers and adults. It's like you don't make an R-rated movie, like a Schwarzenegger movie like Rambo, for 10-year-olds to go see. You know, you don't make Deadpool for 8-year-olds like the kid behind me in line went to go see it. I turned around and went, no, Grandma, no, The actor has said, don't take your kids to this. And Ryan Reynolds said, don't bring your kids to this, because it's not, I mean, the creators know their market, and it is not the young audience on these.
And it's so telling that many times, you know, people who are complaining that they're like, oh no, my kid saw this terrible thing. It's like, look, I'm sorry, but your TV has a TV rating. It tells you what age is appropriate. Your movies have a movie rating, and your video games have a video game rating. Like, it's right there.
Yeah.
If you, and I don't mean to be like really sort of stoking the flames here, but if you are stupid,
The
enough,
general you.
yeah, no, I'm saying you, obviously, as in if a person, and I don't want to be like stoking the flames, but still, if a person is stupid enough to say, yes, Jimmy, I look at this rating, I know this is rated R, and I know you're 7 years old, but I don't care. It's not like the ESRB isn't, like their sticker specifically says, this contains nudity, this contains violence, this contains tobacco use. Anyone who does not understand the rating system is not trying.
Exactly. And it all comes full circle back to the parents or the parental guardian of the child. I mean,
can I just add, just real fast, can I add my 2 cents as a sports baller real fast? Like on violence and games? Okay, so, you know, the stereotypical thing when a gamer gets mad is they throw the controller, right? You know, they rage quit and all that. So, you know how many times I've thrown my controller in my life? Maybe a couple of dozen. You know what I played for like half my life? Golf. And you know how many whacks and divots at the ground intentionally I've taken? A few hundred. It's like, if we're wanting to argue what incites more violence, go play a round, 9 holes of golf, and then go play a couple of levels on a hard game. Tell me which one you are more actively pissed off at, okay?
Yeah. Well, even talking about that, like if you want to branch off a little bit and go into a little sidebar or something, we can even talk about contact sports, the violence in that. We can talk about the violence on television and all that other stuff. I mean, there's violence in everything, but in the nitty gritty, down to the wire, the bottom part is it all falls back to the guardian, the parent, taking the responsibility to educate themselves to know. And knowing their child or children or whatever, the mental capacity, not intelligent-wise capacity is not what I mean. The I guess the
emotional intelligence.
Yeah, the emotional intelligence of the child and being able to comprehend what they're playing.
This is something too. Penn and Teller, a few years ago, they did Penn and Teller's BS. And again, I'm also going to try really hard not to swear. You can probably guess what the show's actually called. They did a segment on violent video games themselves, and it was really fascinating. I encourage all of you to go seek that out. Well, okay, literally not all of you, because I don't know the age of you here. That is
if you're an adult
show.
Yeah.
If you're an adult, watch it, please. They took a child who I believe he was 10 or 11, and he played violent video games all the time. GTA was one of his favorites. They took him to a gun range, and he broke down crying.
What? That's fascinating.
It was, oh, you have to look up this clip when you get the chance. He broke down crying, and he explained that, like, he doesn't want, because they weren't asking him to like shoot people or anything, but in that he was pleading. He's like, I don't want to kill people. I just want to play my games. He even this child, because the parents were absolutely convinced. They're like, no, he's fine with the video games. He's not a troubled child. He doesn't start fights at school. He's fine. We believe that he's emotionally mature enough to play this. And clearly they were right, because this kid, oh man, it was It was heartbreaking.
Yeah,
seeing him cry at this gun range.
The kid was like, he's like, I shoot things in games. I know that it's fake. I know that I'm not hurting anyone. He's like, I don't ever want to intentionally hurt anyone.
Exactly. And even then they explained like, you are at a gun range. He just didn't even want to have anything.
People just innately being able to tell the difference, a real violent event versus a fantastic violent event, be it in a movie or a video game.
And I will put an asterisk on that for just one reason for this, just so our audience is completely clear. Children, I believe, under the age of 4 cannot distinguish fantasy from reality. That is part of a developmental cycle for normal, healthy children. But we are talking like beyond 4 years old.
Yeah, when cognitive thought starts to develop.
Yeah, exactly.
Or abstract thought.
Preteen, so probably like 8, 9, 10 at the youngest.
Yes, absolutely. The kids who, like, no one's going to have their 3-year-old play GTA anyway. They just don't have the thumbs for it. Let's be real.
Yeah,
I love that. That's your pragmatic concern.
No.
Okay. Well, remember, I have this nephew, my friend's son. We were trying to teach him to play Smash Brothers, and he was like 4. And no, it was bad. He does not. Children do not have the thumbs for this.
Yeah.
A parent wouldn't want to take the time to try to teach their kid GTA at that age. Yeah. Trust me.
They do not have the mental focus to be able to stay on one objective for more than 5 seconds.
Exactly.
I actually have real life experience in reference to this. So my son Roxas, which I've mentioned him in Go numerous times, so I don't care about the name and all that other stuff. So, but
you already mentioned him once before here too.
Oh, okay. Well, so I don't know. Do you ever get to that point? Well, here we go. Here comes that side tangent and stuff that we're probably going to be known for. So, you know how sometimes when you're just so focused on an objective that you forget everything before and you're only thinking of the after?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's what I do. When I podcast, I just start yelling into a tin can for whoever how long, and whatever I said, I don't even remember.
Listen, the guys on Stuff You Should Know literally went on a 10-minute tangent about buying pillows in the mall to start one of their episodes, and they're one of the top-rated podcasts on the internet. I think we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, no,
I don't really think that anyone's going to really complain as long as we're entertaining while we do it. I don't think people are going to be upset that we're off topic.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Jake and I went on a whole tangent about Overwatch, and I think we were talking about Doomfist, and I believe we were talking about Bastion, and Bastion peeing on someone or something, that kind of. So it was a weird one.
So many questions. I'm not sure I want the answers to on that one.
To keep this show PG or PG-13, I'm not going to go into it. Okay, but yeah, no. So I have a Nintendo Switch, which RIP at the moment, it's broken and it's being shipped to my house. So I broke it.
Oh.
It died. My Nintendo Switch died. Yeah. Appreciate the condolences and all that other stuff. Listeners out there, thank you for the thoughts and prayers. My heart is very sad, but it went to the doctor and it has been fixed and it is being shipped back. So,
Dr. Mario, I hope.
Yeah, Dr. Nintendo himself, Reggie Fils-Aimé himself, fixed my Switch, and yeah.
It comes back with a note. It's just a picture of him. Your Switch is Reggie.
Yeah. No.
Wouldn't that be amazing though if all like Nintendo repair devices came back with a picture of Dr. Mario like somehow on it?
It would. No, that would be amazing. They used to back in the day, they had a little mechanic Mario. It was around the NES or the SNES era. He had a backwards cap and he had different overalls and he had a wrench. And anytime you sent your stuff in for repair, they would come back with a little seal with that on it. And I remember that quite fondly. But no, it'd be great for Dr. Mario.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah.
Guys, I think we've just officially gone on a tangent on a tangent.
Well, no, it's cool. Well,
in episode 1.
Hey. I'm getting there. So I was teaching. I have the Switch. So I was teaching. Roxas wanted to play Mario, so I handed him the Switch. I think the Pro Controller. I've handed him the Pro Controller, and I've also handed him with the 2 Joy-Cons together in the Joy-Con pad or whatever. So he's playing Mario. He's 3 and a half. And he just basically, what happens every time he gets a controller in his hand, whether it's Kingdom Hearts, because I've tried to teach him how to play that, Mario,
for obvious reasons,
Zelda, any of those sorts of things, he basically takes it, the camera goes up into the sky over the head, it's looking face down at him, and it just kind of spins, and he's just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Or the camera goes underground and just spinning all over, because he doesn't have the motion, what do they call it? The fine motion controls to use 2 fingers doing 2
motor
skills. Yeah,
skills.
The fine motor skills to figure it out at the moment. So I have personal experience of what Jay is talking about. You don't want to go. It's a pain in the butt. I love the kid.
How old is he, man?
He's 3. He'll be 4 in May, but he's 3 and he's closer to 4 than 3. But
dude, Wyatt is 5 and he is kicking my ass at Minecraft. Once he gets those skills, he's going to take off, I promise.
Yeah, no, good. My son will never touch Minecraft, ever, until he can go get a job and buy something that can run it himself.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
that was the most controversial.
Wyatt's got my old hand-me-down phones is what he's playing it on.
Yeah.
That and the Xbox that we have 2 controllers for, so we play it together.
Yeah. No, it's just a part of me. I understand Minecraft, understand the significance, and I understand how amazing and incredible that it is. I understand it. I do not like it. And I don't want Roxas playing it because it's just basically Legos. And if he wants to play Legos, I can go buy some Legos and we're going to play some Legos.
So the thing about Legos that's actually really kind of funny, as far as like Minecraft is concerned, is that Legos are really expensive, and Minecraft is a one-time investment.
I was literally about to say, if you want to save money, a lot of money, do multiple copies of Minecraft rather than multiple Lego sets. I promise. Unless you can guilt relatives into getting them for you, of course.
As someone who still buys Legos, and also I know, like one of my friends is actually a Lego artist. That's her medium is Legos.
Dope.
And then Christy, my fiance, who's also the programmer, one of the programmers for Wraith, her sister also is a huge Lego collector. So Lego is part of my life for a long, long time. Legos are way too expensive.
Yes,
Whereas Minecraft, I'm like, oh my god, it's great. I don't have to buy more Legos. I still do, and I hate it. I hate myself for it. But yeah.
Yeah, I bought the Terror. I'm a fan of Rick and Morty. I like Rick and Morty. Hate the fan base. Mm-hmm. Love the show. I'm talking about the mass fan base that went.
I'm aware.
Yeah, everyone who went crazy about the Szechuan sauce and running on the just crazy, just making a fool out of yourself.
Yeah,
kind of thing. I don't like that fan base. I like the show. The show's very smart and intelligent. But
same here.
I bought the McFarlane Toys makes like a Lego playset of like South Park, Steven Universe, and all this other stuff. But quality, mediocre. So they're fun to put together, except when your 3-year-old loses a very, very tiny piece, and you're like, oh no. But yeah, okay.
And that's why they made Duplo.
Yeah, giant. He has some of those. It's cool. Back onto violence and all that other stuff. Yeah. I don't know. I think we've run our course on it.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. We went on like tangents of tangents.
So that's probably the good indicator of when a thing has kind of died down. It's like, okay, we've talked so much about the thing that we're talking about other things now. That's probably a good metric. So Cajun, what's your topic for today?
My topic is a news article from last week.
Cut out there for a second.
Yep. And Cajun's topic is he is a magician and disappears.
I'm pushing to talk. I promise I am. Okay, third time's a charm. I
Cool.
hope. So, my topic is, where is the name of it? Oh, dadgummit.
Well, good thing this is the pilot episode.
Yes.
Tanglewood, that's what it is. I'm sorry. So, I'm looking at a Game Informer article for the name of this, and it's not highlighted, it's not hyperlinked. Like you would expect, the name of the game that the whole article is based around to be formatted. It's just regular plain text there. So over I believe he's in the UK. Developer Matt Phillips has released Tanglewood. What's unique about it is it's a new game for the Sega Genesis, and it's not just a ROM being put out there, because there's a lot of homebrew hack games that are ROM hacks for different consoles. There's Legend of Zelda hacks for the SNES. There's Ocarina of Time hacks, stuff like that. That's pretty common, for better and worse. What's unique is that this is a full physical release. He's actually contracted with people who custom made a new mold for the cartridges. Who've custom made the PCBs for this, going back to some of the original specs. And he's actually using a original Mega Drive development kit on a Windows 95 PC. I remember a video article, I'll have to dig it up for the link to be included in this, but where he was talking about having to go back and relearn some of the coding tricks from this generation of console to be able to make this game run and work properly.
I have it pulled up right now from their website. You can go to tanglewoodgame.com. The developer is Big Evil Corp. And to say anything, the box art for it looks dope, and the design of it, like the art style, looks dope. I mean, it looks dope. Awesome.
It's beautiful. It really is.
It's actually kind of great because there are a lot of little companies. Megacat Studios, who I had the fortune of meeting at the Ohio Game Development Expo, GDEX, last year. And thankfully, they're also going to PAX East, so I get to talk to them hopefully again, in April. But they do a whole bunch of like Genesis, SNES, and NES stuff. I've seen that basically like every year or so, like 3 or 4 new NES, SNES, and Genesis games come out, and I love it. Like I remember a few years ago, Pierre Solar came out, an RPG on the Genesis, and it's so good.
Oh yeah, I remember. Because it came to the PS4. I think eventually most of those games always come out digitally at some point.
Yeah. And that's one of the things is.
Well, if you go to retrousb.com, these people apparently are making, like, they've got a number of NES and looks like, I guess those are NES or SNES cartridges that they've made custom games for. There's even a custom one. It doesn't look like it's a cartridge. It looks like a little custom handheld. 8-Bit Christmas 2017. It's got a little LCD on it and everything. That I mean, it's out there.
That's cool. I mean, it's
actually. Oops, sorry.
No, it's all good.
No, you, man.
No, okay. What I was going to go on is like it's cool because it's like these little tiny companies who just have this. Goes back to one of my favorite things about video game culture is that there's so many tiny like subsects of the culture in itself. That like there's all these little tiny companies who are they're releasing physical copies of indie games on extremely outdated hardware.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just carving out this little tiny piece of pie, and it's incredible. It's awesome.
I have had the fortune over the last like 5 years or so to play a ton of brand new Genesis games, NES games, SNES games, Dreamcast games. Dreamcast is great because there's like 2 new games every single year for the Dreamcast, and I love it. But I've also played new Neo Geo Pocket Color games. I got to play a couple new Virtual Boy games last year, which were because I have a Virtual Boy and I love it to death. Say what you will.
So you like feeling like Cyclops from the X-Men?
No, because Scott Summers is a jerk. And it took me a second to censor the word I wanted to say. I hate him. So no, I don't want to feel anything like him. He's
I'm just
terrible,
saying,
terrible character.
The Virtual Boy, it makes everything red. Everything is so red.
Well, okay, like the thing is that it gives people headaches and stuff, but I'm fine with it. Like for whatever reason, I'm not affected by it. Same thing with the 3DS. Like I love my 3DS, and I don't understand why people have problems with their motion sickness in it.
Oh,
But
no, I never
built
used
differently.
Yeah, I never used the 3D slider. I was just like, I used it like once, and I was like, nah.
Mine is always cranked up to the max, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm in an adventure. Whereas 3D movies, I go to a 3D movie, and I'm like, my head hurts. I can't do this.
Oh, I'm gonna vomit. Where's my barf bag? May I puke in your popcorn?
The thing is that there are so many great little games. Like I said, Mega Cat Studios, they did Creepy Brawlers. And they did actually several games, but Creepy Brawlers is the one that I love from them the most because it's a fighting game, but it's like a monster mash. And it also just has like the single greatest name ever, Creepy Brawlers. Oh man, like I could gush about them like all the time. So no, it's just so cool that like retro releases are a thing.
It is. Like I didn't even know that it existed. That's why I'm like, oh, this is really fast.
Oh wow, really?
No. I mean, other than I know Wraith was going to release.
No.
Okay, can't say.
We're not going to edit it. We're not going to edit that out of the episode.
Spoilers.
Oh, it's a teaser. We'll use it as a teaser.
Yeah, we'll Wraith is doing hopefully something on retro platforms, but we are not going to talk about it.
I can't say about it. I'm sorry. I did not know.
Basically,
so where I was kind of going with that, the reason I picked that particular news article is back in August of last year, there was a YouTube channel that started up called Game Hut it's done by John Burton, who is spent 29 years as director of Traveler Sales / TT Games, and he will go back and he'll find old binary files even and reconstruct them into different parts of different games like that his team's worked on, like Micomania and stuff, and he'll go back and explain the coding and literally like sometimes the memory chip tricks that they did to make these games work. Like the 3D intro to one of the Sonic games, is like this technically shouldn't have been possible, but we did it because of this, and this. And these are some amazing videos. And where I'm kind of getting at is like, as developers, are we losing something as a community by not having these constraints? We're creating these amazing lush 3D worlds and all that, but are we losing some skill, some prestige almost, by just kind of being able to write in Unity and write in and not have to actually worry about our memory management as much? Trying to finesse the hardware to make it do what we want.
So okay, I'll piggyback on this with a few things. So firstly, I think that while constraints do breed creativity, and what I like to say when I talk about this with my friends is Tim Burton is at his most creative when the studios give him less control and less money. The more money and creative freedom you give Tim Burton, the worse movies he makes. It's true. It's just true.
I would reference the Willy Wonka movie, the new one.
Yeah,
that one's not good. But
he had so much money.
The puppet. The only time I ever laugh in that film, every single time, is when they're going on the little canoe ride or whatever in the new film, and he goes, "Yeah, over there, that's the puppet burn unit. It's fairly new." Because the puppets.
It's creepy in all the wrong ways.
Yeah,
it's not the best. Well, okay. So, what's the best movie you did with like the most constraint? What, Batman? 89 Batman.
Okay, so I would probably say 89 Batman. Also, obviously, Nightmare Before Christmas. Even though Nightmare Before Christmas wasn't like 100% his project anyway.
No.
Yeah. So also Edward Scissorhands follows under that. Same thing with Beetlejuice. Like most of his early work, they're just like, we're not going to give you money for things, and he's like, okay. So yeah. But my my other point, basically. Also, Sweeney Todd. There you go, Sweeney Todd too. Not a whole too bunch of money or creative freedom, but not about him though. I think that almost every programmer I know feels exactly the same way as you, Cajun, to the point where they dig up old programming tips and tricks and then try to make a game as efficiently as possible. So I think that there's this kind of drive in most programmers to say, "Oh no, we've lost our way. Let's bring it back." Mark, who does Collapses for us, he is. And I love him, and he's going to probably listen to this episode. He is the single most annoying human being ever, because we were having a conversation, and I can't even remember what it was, but I'm like, yeah, well, we need to add this feature and this feature and this feature. And he's like, oh, but the file size is so huge. And I look at it, and I'm like, we're at 12 megs. And he's like, yeah, that's irresponsible. And I pulled up, and I'm like, oh, yeah, because we don't have iOS and Android games and like Nintendo games and stuff that aren't running, several gigs, know.
Yeah.
12 megs. Oh, gasp. I'm so horrified for you.
I think Downwell is, you know what Downwell is, right? Yeah,
Downwell's great.
Yeah, it's a great game. And I think on my Vita, I think it's like 23 megabytes or something like that.
There was one that I played in 2015 when I was first starting my game streaming called Fur Guardians, and the install size on Android is 1 megabyte. And I think I've gotten it up to my son has gotten up to 2.3 megabytes as he's made more, kept going through the levels because they're procedurally generated, and so as you just add level files, it just adds in. But that's the entire game. I was working with Corona at the time and literally just creating a project, nothing in the game, one background, that's it. The whole install size was 6 or 7 megabytes.
Yeah.
So
basically that game is an algorithm. Like that 1 meg is an algorithm with set textures, and then that algorithm writes the levels.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And that's the thing. Is I agree with you that sometimes it is too easy to do certain things, and sometimes creativity does definitely breed, or not. It's that restraints breed creativity. But the big problem, are we still on?
Yeah, we're still here. I'm listening intently.
Oh, cool. The light on my setup just sort of blinked. So the thing is that even though these constraints do breed more creativity, every programmer I know who gives two shakes about their project is some sort of old curmudgeon who, even though they're 23, looks like they grew up in the 1970s, and they're just like, no, we have to make it as small and efficient as humanly possible. And every single one. And again, as an indie dev, I deal with a lot of different programmers of different backgrounds, and they are all the single most annoying people for literally that reason. I love oops, sorry.
No, it's cool. Go on.
I love every programmer I've ever worked with. We have 5 programmers here at Wraith, and they're great. In fact, I literally love one, my beautiful fiance, who is one of Wraith's programmers. But
she's in the room, isn't she?
These people.
I said she's in the room, isn't she? Is that what?
she's asleep. She's actually asleep, so I don't have to flatter her. She's not even going to listen to this episode, but I love her. I'm going to allow her to get mushy. Shush you.
Yeah, no. I was making a joke. I'm like,
no, I know.
You're only saying that because she's in the room, because I understand. I say the same thing about my wife.
This is the thing for the audience.
Wink once for Grant. Yes, and twice for no.
This is a thing for the audience and for Grant. If I just play into the joke, that doesn't mean I didn't understand the joke. That means I definitely understood the joke, and I'm taking it to its logical conclusion.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Everyone has. Then I'll have to figure that out, and I'll have to figure out some jokes that will. Either I'll just make some up that just really just you're just like, what? It's cool.
Oh yeah, because that would definitely stump me. No, I often play the straight man because I realize that I have no comedic talent of my own, but I'm a butt of great jokes.
Oh.
So I just play into them and it's fine.
All right.
But no, like, I just think that maybe the idea of the smallest file size and the most efficient program isn't lost. You know, it's something that I think is alive and well. And I think I don't know. Yeah, yeah. I don't think anything. I just think that's my 2 cents on that.
That seems important on the indie developer side. Like extremely important on the indie side, but in the AAA space, I don't think it really matters.
It's like, yes, buy this new terabyte hard drive for the latest AAA game. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean,
so okay. I actually have something really about this because I watched something like a YouTube video explaining like why games have just gotten so massive, and it's not necessarily any of the code base or any of the game complexity itself. It is entirely the graphics.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It is, and sometimes the audio. You know, as the number of polygons has gone up and the textures and stuff like that, it is exponentially exploded. And when we went from like 96 kbps CD quality audio to, you know, now we're like Blu-ray surround sound and like 9 channels, and you know you can hear the rabbit munching on the grass 18 feet behind you. You know, it's the multimedia content. That is what's absolutely destroying games these days for AAA. It's like the quality of polish is there.
Yeah, like Cletus. Cletus is over there. He's just set up this beautiful surround sound system in his house, and he invites his buddy Bob over, and they're watching this beautiful, beautiful film directed by Christopher Nolan. And Cletus turns to Bob and he's like, "Man, did you just hear that bee fart on that flower? It's amazing."
Am I back?
Oh, you cut out? I thought you stopped. I was making a joke. It was great.
Where'd I cut out at?
I don't know.
I didn't hear you at all. It wasn't picking you up. I made a joke. I was talking about, you know, the surround sound system. It was something around how...
Whoa.
Yeah, it was something around the sound quality, sound and art assets, and you were going on somewhere.
So, to pick up and kind of summarize, you know, it's like... Okay, so I have a little level of tinnitus. You know, I've got astigmatism, and I'm partially colorblind, you know, as Jay knows. And it's like the multimedia assets are getting to such a high level. Yes, there are monitors that can handle, you know, 120 second refresh, 120 hertz refresh rate, and you can handle, you know, 9 multimedia channels, all that. But like, unless you are naturally have those biological differences that you can perceive that. If you're a woman, you can see the 4 colors, you know, whereas mere men can only see 3.
Well, actually,
Is it really worth it to be putting in this extra stuff if you can't, your bulkier customers that you're trying to sell this to can't or won't use it, you know?
I want to put a little asterisk on what you said about like women and color and things like that, just for a second, because it's not just women. Because, it should be noted, I took a color test a few years ago. I have perfect color vision. It literally does not get better than my color vision. Just saying.
Well, congratulations.
Also, Christy, colorblind. So, drop the mic there.
Yeah, I thought you were going to be like, Christy can see other dimensions.
No, she's colorblind. And it's funny because people are like, "Oh my god, really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what do you mean really?" And they're like, "Well, that's so rare." And I'm like, "No, I had no clue." It's almost like Wraith almost specifically develops for colorblind people. Crazy stuff that.
Yeah. That's a very common thing. That's where a lot of first-person shooters, like I think one of the first things that in modern times that I can remember is that EA put a colorblind thing. They put a colorblind thing in all their games because the enemies are usually red, your good team's blue, and they made like an orange, like an aqua and an orange color where the enemies show up on the map, stuff like that, like different variations. So colorblind people can enjoy games.
Exactly.
That's how common it is.
I agree with you though, Cajun, because like I'll be playing like a beautiful brand new game, and I will look at like gameplay comparisons between like 4K and like Ultra HD and like the PS4 and the Xbox One, and then I just can't tell the difference anymore. And I know that's terrible to say as a developer, but like side by side, I can't tell anymore.
I literally have the same issue at my day job because I sell cell phones. And, I remember when the iPhone 4's Retina display was, holy crap, you can't see the pixels with your naked eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was like 336, I think. I think it was like a 300 and something pixel count, pixels per inch. And my customers are asking me, which is a better display? Okay, well, they're both 5.8 inches. This one is a 1080p resolution, 1080 by 720, whatever it is. And this one, so it's like a 400 ppi pixel count. And then this one is 5.8, but it's got a 557 pixel count. How much is the average person going to actually be able to perceive the difference in that? If you're watching, something that is 1080 versus 4K, sure, you might be able to see that. But for most people, they're just generally watching YouTube on it, where you're looking at most videos doing 720, maybe 1080. Is that extra $300 on the phone worth it? And
I think it's kind of interesting too, because like there are several things that stem up from that. I have some friends who are very much like graphic snobs.
PC
and
Master
9
Race.
Times out of
PC Master Race. No, I don't. I use my PC for
Yeah,
work. I don't. I rarely play games on my computer. Rarely. I'd rather have a controller in my hand.
I'm a PC gamer mostly, but also I do like arcade collecting. So I'm very much like I don't care how I get it as long as I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm not really allowed to play games anymore anyway because I spend too much time making stuff. Like it sucks.
You will find a balance.
But
you will find a balance.
I hope once Collapses is out, I'm just going to take a small vacation and just play a lot of my backlog.
Yeah.
But
when are we going to mention the game we're going to be playing next episode?
We'll be doing that at the end.
Okay.
We'll be doing that at the end.
Okay. All right.
But the thing is that I have a lot of graphic snobs friends, and I am sure that some of them can tell the difference, but I am convinced that most of them just hear numbers and say bigger number is better, and they can't actually tell the difference. They've just convinced themselves that they can.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, I do think it is important for people who have money, like as far as developers who have money, to be able to push the boundaries of technology so that we can like innovate. However, when we see a lot of giant AAA studios imploding because they can't pay their people, that's when we draw that line there, I think.
Yeah, I had that same
I agree that it is important to push the technology, but at the same time, I think as a gaming industry, we need to refrain from the proverbial,
he cut out
to
again.
use a bit more vulgar term in here, refrain from the proverbial pissing match of, again, just a higher number for the sake of having a higher number,
Oh, absolutely agreed.
No, I wonder what like the actual coding size-wise would be if you took out all the assets of the big AAA games. Like it would probably be maybe a 16th to an 8th, possibly, of the actual systems itself.
And maybe even smaller.
Yeah, because like what Cajun you're saying is that with 4K technology, with 4K and Ultra HD, with 4K and HDR. And all that stuff. Like the file size is going to keep going up. And the reference point I had is that I booted up Destiny 1 again and downloaded a patch. The patch for all the expansions and all the subsequent patches before the base game came out was 32.64 gigs.
And that's just the update.
Yeah, that's the update. That's not including what's on the disc. Like it's not a digital version. I have the physical disc and then all the digital expansions. I bought the expansions digitally. And the updates, all the patches and stuff. Yeah, 30 32, 34 gigs.
Can I say, and this is coming from someone who does not play Destiny, but I saw some gameplay of Destiny 1 recently, and I saw some gameplay of Destiny 2 recently.
Yeah.
Is there a graphical leap between them? Because I can't tell. I really can't.
2 looks slightly prettier. Shadowing and stuff's better. The lighting and stuff's better because they didn't have to cater to the legacy console of the 360 and PS3.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, one of the things is I make indie games, so you know what that means. If it's bigger than 3 pixels, then I'm not interested, I guess.
No, I'd like my opinion, I guess, a little bit about me, since I guess this is the pilot episode and we're talking about ourselves and all this other stuff. That to me, gameplay, growing up in the era, gameplay is always going to be king for me. It doesn't matter what it looks like. I really don't. I could care what it looks like, as long as the gameplay is engrossing and fun. I'll play it.
This is so it's weird because this is, a Wraith Games sponsored podcast, but I wanted to keep it mostly Wraith Games agnostic, I guess. I didn't want to really focus too much on Wraith most of the time, but I knew obviously that was going to have to come up in general just because it's a big part of my life and a big part of my outlook on games.
Yeah.
But I do want to mention this about Collapsus, and this is not a shameless plug because the game's almost out.
Do we need to take a breaks and pause, and then you can give me a commercial, and we'll stick it in there, and then we'll be like, hey, and we're back.
No, we're not gonna do that. It is my intention.
Do a jingle.
I don't have one, thankfully. No one wants to hear that. But I want to try to keep this podcast ad-free, even my own ads. Just like us and give us money on Patreon, and we'll keep this ad-free. But if not, sponsors.
Be sure to drink your Ovaltine. Sorry.
But one of the things that I noticed pretty early on with Collapsus, because we started developing it back in 2006. So it had a long development cycle. Really, Collapsus has looked the way it's looked pretty consistently from 2013 until now. And early on, there were a lot of people who were like, "Oh, are these placeholder graphics? I don't really understand. It's not flashy like Candy Crush and stuff." And very recently, there have been a lot of people who've been commenting on Collapsus, talking about how pretty it looks. Mostly because it was inspired by pop art, and they're like, "Oh, it's such a great looking game and everything." And in my head, I'm like, I did not change the graphics in the past few years. What has happened? And I think there's been a shift in gaming culture where people are now valuing readability and they're valuing graphical fidelity, I guess, more than and more importantly, a good art style, rather than just necessarily graphical flashiness, maybe.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can have a beautiful game. I mean, but if your game runs janky, it's a bad game. Like, it can be the best looking game on the planet.
I think something I'm going to bring up here, this is a major sticking point for me, is when kind of just touches into loot boxes. I don't know if we'll ever touch on that subject, but when things are designed to be psychologically addictive, the bright, winning, flashing lights, almost like a casino event. Even some of the Toon Pop, I think, is what I've got on my phone. They keep you addicted to the same basic gameplay by artificially stimulating the reward centers in your brain different ways, audio cues, visual cues, and stuff like that. And Bejeweled, I don't think they have it so much, but like Candy Crush definitely does.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of these games, they exploit this, and that's how they get you to pay for $1, $2, $20 for extra turns. Is because you got to get that next fix of finishing that level, Collapsus is definitely not built that way, and I think that maybe that could have been something that they were picking up on. Is it wasn't that eye candy, It's beautiful and it's a great game, but it's not that manipulatively contrived and designed, sort of addictive, beautiful.
So here's a funny thing, and I guarantee you we will probably talk about Skinner boxes, and we will probably talk about the mobile games industry, and we'll talk about the idea of whales, and we'll talk about loot boxes and monetization and all that stuff. Not today, but I almost guarantee you that that'll come up several times in the next few episodes, just because all of those pieces are hugely important in the culture right now.
Especially with the legislation and stuff that's going on with loot boxes and all that other junk.
Exactly. I'm almost expecting you, Grant, to pick that as your topic for next time, just because you seem to gravitate towards more politically charged content, and
just lately, because
currently he just gets there first.
No, it's also I pay attention to politics stuff because I'm not talking about it because I don't want to get into it because I don't want to make this political. I'm just not. I'm very interested in the current state of the United States politics, and how it affects my interests and things that are happening in the world. I'm gonna leave it at that.
The problem is that you are both braver and also smarter than I am, because you and I, we've talked politics before, and Cajun and I have also talked politics, and we all tend to agree on most things. The problem is that if I actually get into a political conversation, I will not shut up, and I am very, very vocal about my opinions, and I'm not going to say what those opinions are, but I'm very vocal about them, and that would be the worst thing. So most of my topics are going to be pretty apolitical, as much as humanly possible.
Jay, I think if you haven't noticed, we're all pretty opinionated here.
Very much so. But I'm just saying that I think that Grant is centered enough, and he's able to control himself enough in a way that I don't think I would be capable of.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing that he's attaching himself more to political ideas.
Yeah. No. Well, it's mainly I guess it might have to do with where you grow up. Because Kentucky is, one side, and I'm nowhere near that side of the mass majority. Mm-hmm. And Hamilton is very like a very tiny, small, progressive dot in the sea of blood that is Ohio. But
depends on what side of the river you're on, actually.
Yeah. But predominantly is known for its red. So.
I think this could be a good COA for us, though, that for our listeners, that if Grant and I ever say, Jay, have at it with a topic, that go right ahead and just beware.
Yeah. We'd have to put an explicit tag and all that other stuff. Has this podcast been submitted to iTunes with the explicit tag? Just out of curiosity.
It might be. I've not set up the whole iTunes thing as of the recording.
Okay. Just out of curiosity.
And the reason I haven't is because we have our own hosting platform on wraithgames.com. And so other sources are currently secondary, but by the time this goes live, it'll be available on multiple sources. Yeah. And so far, we've not been explicit. The worst thing we've said is pissed twice. And I've been keeping track of things. So this is third time that was said.
Well, I did say pissing match too.
Yeah. Well,
I was counting that, so that's number 4.
That's not that's still considered PG to PG-13.
Yeah. We fall in the PG slot.
I almost dropped the F-bomb like a few times, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, same.
Okay. But yeah, no. I don't know where we went off weird, crazy, political tangent.
So, do we think we should move on to the last topic?
Yes. But first,
I think it's probably a good idea to move on to the next one. Since we're doing a little tangenty kind of a thing going on.
It seems to be the sign.
Yeah, I think it's a good sign. I think it's good. What do you think, Cajun? Think it's good?
Have you said your piece, good sir?
Yeah, I think I've laid out enough of my opinions. Move on to the next one.
Okay, so what I'm going to discuss is the recent Twin Galaxies scandal. So, for any of you listeners who don't know, Twin Galaxies is a website that is the database for all of the big high score and speed running world records. They're the database that passes all of the records over to the Guinness Committee so people can have their Guinness records. They've been doing this since video game competitions were a thing, all the way back in the arcade days. And so recently, we had a gentleman who was part of the inner circle of Twin Galaxies, Todd Rogers. He got a high score for speed on the Atari 2600 game Dragster, and Dragster is one of the more tolerable 2600 games. It kind of holds up, and he did this insane score. It was I believe it was like a minute 13 seconds, something like that. I could be no, it's less than that. It's I can't remember. I don't actually have it in my notes. But the thing is that there were a lot of people who were very skeptical about whether or not this score was legitimate. And you'll notice that recently there's been a lot of skepticism as to whether or not a score is legitimate within Twin Galaxies. So one of the developers ended up actually coming out and talking about this and mentioned that it is actually impossible to get a time faster than the certain time marker just because of coding limitations. And there were some people who decompiled the ROM and were able to find out that is indeed the case, meaning Todd Rogers cheated.
Yeah, now, I think didn't they do a machine learning on it, and like not even the machine tool assisted run could do faster than that. It's straight up impossible.
Yeah, they did. They built a bot, and the bot couldn't do it, and that is hilarious. Now, that should have been where the story ended in a sane and rational world. Instead, Billy Mitchell. And I hope that you guys recognize that name.
Oh, I do. I hate that. I don't like him. He's a scum. He's just a pompous.
He's a jerk.
He's a pompous. Words I can't say.
He looks. This is the guy that the King Kong record, right?
Yes, he was
the Donkey Kong. He looks like the villain dude from Hackers.
Oh. Have you all seen Despicable Me 3?
Not yet.
No, I've only seen the first two.
Okay, well, even if you look up the trailer, the main bad guy is like something Brat, Billy Brat or something like that, and he has a mullet. He wears all purple, has like has this big beard and stuff, chews bubblegum and everything, and he hasn't changed his look since he was on this television show called like The Brat or something like that, where he was like this mastermind villain, or no, he was a mastermind hero, but he was a little child. And he looks kind of like Billy Mitchell.
So, for the people out there in listener land, Billy Mitchell was the gentleman who was one of the competitors in the King of Kong's Fistful of Quarters documentary a while back. And some of you also may know him as the guy who they parodied in Regular Show, and then he attempted to sue Cartoon Network for using his likeness, and lost hard because it wasn't actually them using his likeness. It was just a guy kind of like him. So, yeah, no, it's hilarious. It was an arcade episode where they were competing for a high score, and it was just this guy with this massive head and this little tiny body, and he was this arcade master, and his name was like, I can't even remember. It was something like Billiam Montgomery or something like that. It was great. So the thing is that for a while, some of his scores have been sort of, I don't know, like
under scrutiny.
Yeah, under scrutiny.
Dubious as hell.
Yes, absolutely. So the thing is that uh, the way Twin Galaxies does their scores is you can either submit a video, or you can have a judge be there in person, or I can't remember the other one. There's another way that you can verify.
Can't
But
you?
you have to be able.
I thought you have to go there. Like you can go to the Twin Galaxies arcade, and
That's probably it. That's probably the third one. So the thing is that a lot of Billy's stuff, there's no video of it. It's just him and a judge. Well, it just so happens that Billy is one of the inner circle of Twin Galaxies. He spends a lot of money making the organization run. Well,
He was also a judge for a while, wasn't he?
I don't know about that. That's entirely possible, though. We'll if we have to issue corrections, there'll probably be an episode in the future where we just go through corrections of things we got wrong. But we will say probably.
I have an idea of that, but we will save it till, I guess, at post stuff after we've got done recording.
Yes. So the thing about Billy is that a lot of his records just aren't on video, and there's this one record where the only video of it is him and a judge trading out a board. He's like, "Well, I just broke this Donkey Kong record. I'm going to trade out this board." And the problem is that if you know anything about arcade boards, you can see that he's actually swapping a Donkey Kong Junior board for another Donkey Kong Junior board, and then the game loads up as Donkey Kong. Meaning more than likely it was actually running an emulation. So we had, thanks to some very, very talented people who know a lot about arcade games, some of the stuff that we do have video of him doing, the way Donkey Kong machines load in is they load in kind of like in ribbons. It loads in like just in lines, where if you're using an emulator, it loads in chunks. And so some of the videos we do have of him playing, it's loading in chunks. And that means that he is using emulation.
So to actually, I can actually explain this a little bit better for our listeners since they don't have a picture of this.
Thank you.
So if you know anything about the traditional Donkey Kong level, you have the different ladders and girders in the levels that make up the different platforms of the level. And what will happen is on an actual arcade machine, a MAME machine, I think, I could be wrong on that, but anyways, on an actual device.
MAME is emulation.
Okay, MAME is emulation. Okay, so on an actual arcade machine, it'll load up the different subsections. It'll load like one color of this, and then the next color of the next component and stuff like that. And then you'll have like the character show up and all that. But it goes by stages, and you can see this frame by frame on the video replay. With emulation, what happens is the computer composites everything into one thing, and then suddenly, pop, it's all there, all at the same time in the same frame.
If it's a slower computer, it'll load it in large chunks, but it's still very, like, it'll load, like, one section of the screen at a time. It won't be based off of,
it still doesn't render in the same way.
Absolutely. Very noticeable way.
Yes, and arcade machines, like, every game, obviously, and every scene will be different, but it's the same consistent, it's doing it in stages. Whereas emulation, even if it's chunking it, it's obvious chunks, right? Or like I said, it's in the entire scene, the entire screen is done, composited, and put out there in one frame, and then it's updated from there.
So the thing that should also be noted is there's nothing wrong with emulation. Well, I'm not saying from a legal standpoint, because from a legal standpoint,
it's a very gray area.
It's a gray area, and we could probably do an entire episode just on that alone. But I mean, from a speedrunning perspective, there's nothing wrong with emulating. There are entire sections of speedrunning that just do emulation on their own. However, when you are claiming to do it on original hardware, and original hardware does make a difference as far as like the speed of which things load, the way things load in, the way even certain animation frames play out, you have milliseconds, sometimes even whole seconds, that are different and can make the difference between a good speedrun and a bad speedrun. Now, the thing that should be noted... Oops, sorry.
I was going to say, it's like the guy that got convicted for selling golden tickets to heaven. It's what was illegal about it wasn't that they were tickets to heaven; it's that he was committing fraud by representing pieces of wood that had been painted gold as solid gold.
Exactly.
When you're doing this, emulation is fine as long as you're representing it as an emulated run. You can't present it as an original arcade machine run. You have to put it in the right category.
And for Billy, it's apparently even more damning for two reasons. One, he has claimed in the past to have never used emulation ever. And then he later cycled back on that and said that he did on a couple occasions, but nothing for his runs. So he has made a very, very specific claim that he does not emulate ever. And thing number two is there's also further evidence to suggest that he is using save states rather than actually playing his games through clean, which is entirely against. It's cheating. It's absolutely cheating.
Yeah. Well,
that's just cheap, even as a casual gamer.
I mean,
like the top 10 levels in Contra Hardcore, I can't get through them. I use save states. I'm sorry. Not hardcore, Contra 3.
But to go to talk about Billy, and what always stuck out in my mind is the end of King Kong Fistful of Quarters. That documentary is awesome, and it's such an underdog tale, one of the greatest underdog tales of all time, because he is such just a crappy person. Like, he is not likable at all. And the guy who I can't even remember his name, who has like the second place, and he was trying to get the first place, and he was much younger and everything, and like his goal was he beat Billy in the score, and at the end of the near the end of the documentary, Billy submitted a video or something of him beating it and then getting like some atrocious score that's impossible.
Yeah.
And if you watch the footage and stuff, you can see like there's like a weird cut in it or something, and the guy was just like, "How is this legal? How is that?" But it passed, and I don't know what the top score for Donkey Kong Country Jr. is, but I do remember that specific point in the documentary.
Donkey Kong Jr. Yeah, Donkey Kong Country.
Oh, well, I mean, sorry, Donkey Kong Jr. That I know what I'm talking about. It's just, slip of the tongue thing. But
no, I know you know what you're talking about. I just mean for the audience.
Yeah. The Donkey Kong Jr. run with like the high score run with the kill screen and all that other stuff. Like, he had the top score for years, possibly decades. And
see, what originally set everyone being suspicious of this, or at least for the Donkey Kong itself, wasn't that it was a judge witness, quote unquote, record, is that his score was so absurdly high above literally anyone else. Everyone else was getting in the hundreds of thousands, and he was like 15 million. It's just so just absurd. That's all. The only way to describe it.
No, he got cocky.
Yeah, the guy beat it though, didn't he? He beat it. The guy who had second in the movie in King Kong in the documentary, like, he beat it, and then Billy submitted a video footage that wasn't witnessed or anything, but they considered it a actual score, and then he didn't get it, if I'm remembering correctly.
That sounds right, yeah. Now, the thing that should be noted is that over at Twin Galaxies, and this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I've been working on my Super Mario World record. It's close, but the thing is that with Twin Galaxies, they are the authority, and a lot of the inner circle has been suspect. And recently, it's not just Todd Rogers, it's not just Billy Mitchell. A lot of the inner circle in general has been accused of scandal. And the judge who cleared Billy, and this is again, corrections if I'm wrong, the judge who cleared Billy on his big thing, I believe, was actually Todd Rogers. Now, if that is incorrect, the judge who cleared Billy was another person who recently had their scores removed due to scandal. If it wasn't Todd Rogers, but I do believe it was, though I could be, again, very wrong.
I think there's a third person that's being implicated and possibly being stripped. I'll have to find out the YouTuber that is really at the forefront of bringing these guys down.
Yes, because actually citing the person would be very good for further reading. But the thing is that if you can't trust the people keeping the records, then an entire community could go down in flames. And when you also consider that a few years ago, Twin Galaxies they didn't have a website for quite a while, as they were trying to figure out what to do with the organization. And then a couple other organizations came up to try to be the new Twin Galaxies, and they were immediately stomped almost out of existence when Twin Galaxies came back. I think it's going to be difficult for there to be a sea change, because even when this whole thing clears itself up, either the community is going to be diminished because there's no real trust in it anymore, or there's going to be an alternative that's going to spring up, and I don't think it's going to be able to get as much traction as Twin Galaxies.
Yeah, and for anyone that's not already familiar with these guys, because I wasn't until just recently myself, everyone knows Guinness is the authority on everything, right? You know, they're the ones that have all the records. Well, Guinness Book of Records defers to Twin Galaxies for gaming records. That's the sway of these guys, and their very core and foundation is being suspect. So
exactly.
My whole takeaway is just kind of sad, because Twin Galaxies has been around since basically the birth of the arcade.
Yes,
and it's almost a deconstruction of an institution. Like, Twin Galaxies is an institution for gamers. It's almost anyone who's been around for as long as we have, who's in late 20s to 30s and stuff like that, or so on, understands that Twin Galaxies was to get your name on the Twin Galaxies leaderboard was something. Like, that was some huge bragging rights. And it is basically just, if the top scores are bad, that are fake, then who says this second, third, fourth, all the way up to whatever, even if they are real.
Yeah, and even then, even if we can say they are, for second, third, and whatever, how do we tell who has legitimate top places and who doesn't? That's one of those things, is you can't trust anything after a while, and it's just sad.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems like as things are progressing, the well is becoming just poisoned. And
yeah, absolutely.
There's going to have to be something. Either Guinness just starts up their own statistical gaming division where they just do records and stuff like that. I mean, I can't think of any other way to either, because like you were saying, you can't bring up another institution. They've been squashed. It seems like they have that much pull and power.
Who's going to do it? IGN? I mean, GameStop?
Like I said, there were several smaller things that came up and tried to do it, but maybe Awesome Games Done Quick. Maybe something with Twitch. Like, I bet Twitch, if they had the patience for it, they'd do it.
I know
that I can actually see possibly working. Yeah.
I know there are some records that have been broken that were live streamed via Twitch and are, I think, considered legitimate records.
Yeah, that actually that's something that Twin Galaxies was actually allowing was Twitch stuff, but they consider that video. One of the recent high scores that actually I believe was for Donkey Kong, and this was after the Billy Mitchell thing. It was some people, and what they did was they live streamed playing of Donkey Kong, and then they deconstructed the cabinet on stream and went over every component just to prove that it was safe. And I hate that it's coming to that, but that also just kind of shows that these guys were awesome. That they're like, no, we will prove that everything's legit. We will deconstruct this cabinet and explain it.
That's cool. I mean, that's terrible. Yeah. You're saying that you have to do to legitimize yourself, but
yeah. And as someone who is, I wouldn't say I'm involved in the speedrun community, but my Super Mario World speedrun record is, I've not submitted yet, and so therefore obviously there's no proof of any of this. So yeah. But I'm within the top 3 for Super Mario World, and I don't want to submit until I have number 1. But at the same time, now with everything collapsing around me, I'll probably just submit my score soon, just because I'm like, well, at least I'll have 3 before everything dies.
Yeah.
Forever. Yeah. No, I'm one of those jerks where I'm like, well, if I can't get number 1, I don't even want to be on the list.
If I don't want to,
because I'm a terrible human being.
If I can't be the best, I don't even want to be there.
And the sad part is, like, I love the GBA version of Super Mario World more than the SNES version. Yes, fight me, nerds. But I actually beat the high score, the speedrun record on the GBA by like 3 minutes. And the only reason I haven't submitted for that is there's like 5 people on that list, and I'm like, oh, I don't even want this.
Yeah. Why be the best
Fun
one?
fact, Pokemon Stadium 2 has only one 100% completion speedrunner.
Oh my god, really?
27 hours.
Holy crap.
So if I ever get enough Red Bulls and coffee, that's what I'm doing.
You know, if we ever meet up and do a live one, that would be something like.
Oh, we will.
Like giant.
Oh yes.
Giant Bomb. I think Jeff Gerstmann or something. He held the world's longest Super Smash Brothers run. Like he just had the world's longest one. He did it for like 36 hours or something like that. Played like one of the longest set down times, I think, for Smash Brothers, the longest played time. And he did it live stream. I think he did it for some charity event. I think it was the it wasn't Extra Life. It was the clowns or the kids one, or I don't know.
Child's Play.
Child's Play. Yes.
There's a clown.
No,
one?
I don't know. I was thinking of kids and clowns, and then my brain went to It, and I'm like, man, that movie, the new movie was pretty good, but you can't hold a candle to Tim Curry, but you know.
Tim Curry, yeah. And I do want to say for the audience, before they think I'm like some sort of bragging piece of jerk, I am not good at video games. I am good at one video game and only one. So I'm not trying to be like, my high score is the greatest thing ever. It's I literally have no life and am only good at exactly one video game.
That sounds
Isn't most of your staff better at you than you at Collapses?
No. Christy and I. Hey, what?
I was like, I thought you'd said that to me before. I may have misremembered that, apparently.
No, Christy. Christy is better at me than in Collapsus. And then a programmer that we had a while ago, and I'm not going to name his name, he left the team. He was definitely better than me. But as far as everyone else is concerned, I'm still better than them. But
gotcha.
That one programmer was so much better than me, it was laughable. Like, I've never seen someone get to level 100 before.
Wow.
But he did. And it's not okay. And we're talking like on hard. It's like, no, you're superhuman. And I don't like it. It's bad. It makes me feel uncomfortable how good he is at this game.
Is he just good at Collapsus, or is he good at all games?
He is good at mini games.
Oh.
He's the problem is I could never play him in Halo or Soul Calibur because I'm like, nope, I am dead forever, just completely. And
was he South Korean?
No, he's not South Korean. The funny thing though is that he was doing this Minecraft project, and this will probably immediately tell you exactly who this person is. But he was recreating Ocarina of Time 1-for-1 in Minecraft with like workable dungeons. And so he brought me on board to help. And I'm like, you are way better at Legos than I am. I am going to be useless.
And that's when I realized that I was just an average, mediocre human.
Well, I knew that from watching other people do Minecraft videos, but I'd never seen one of those Minecraft super people in real life. And then I was watching him, and I'm like, oh, you're one of those guys. That explains it. You're using like redstone programming, and this is before there were like command blocks. And I'm like, I'm inadequate. I can't help you.
So okay, wait. To take that back just a hair, and we've gotten way off topic, but whatever. I think we've said our piece about Twin Galaxies, but I'm sure it'll
probably
yeah. But so some of those Minecraft builders build bots, basically code. They code their own stuff to build like big chunks and stuff to make it faster.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not just that. They're not coding bots out of the game. They're coding bots in the game using the game.
There is a full 8-bit CPU in Minecraft made out of redstone.
There's also one of my favorite videos was watching someone who coded an Atari 2600 emulator using Minecraft. It was great.
And then what, they just made some kind of way to take emulation games into Minecraft to be able to play on it?
Yes.
Wow. I mean,
yeah, that's the thing about...
Like I've said, I respect everything that Minecraft can do and all those who love it. I do. I understand. I don't love it. I don't like it. It's not my game. It's not my type of game. It's not my cup of tea.
Which is kind of funny because like when because I got in on the alpha, as I think a lot of people did. There were probably half as many people who got into alpha as that was in beta, and I think beta was the single biggest time when people joined. So like alpha was a great time for just the community in general.
Do you remember when there weren't even shadows on the trees yet?
Yes, I do.
Remember when the game was like $10 or $20 instead of like 60?
And
damn that I can't remember my old account password.
I got it for 10. I've made sure to keep my password updated, so every once in a while I'll go in and play. But anyway, the thing was that like the game is Zelda plus Legos plus Harvest Moon, meaning it is just great. And this is one of those things where I'm like, I can respect that it's not for you, but I do not understand how it's not for you.
I guess I just haven't played. I haven't played. I guess the creation part about it is what is not for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I like playing games. I like to be, I get bored. I just don't. I mean, I could build, like, that's cool, but my favorite part, like, I used to play, like Sim City and all that stuff. I love building up the cities and then just using cheat codes and just destroying everything, because that was the fun part about it.
Whereas when I play Sim City, and it's, by the way, my favorite version is the SNES version. Just putting that out there. What I do is I build perfect Utah-style grid cities. With complete public transportation. So like every block has a train track and a road, and then I have it perfectly blocked out. And what I do is I build it as big as I can, and then I let it run. And what I'll do is I'll literally just let an SNES run for days in real life, and I'll just go check on it. And I'm like, the year was 2 million, and my society is thriving. So that's the kind of guy I am.
Yeah, I like some story. I like some gameplay elements. I like some kind of drive, some sort of commitment for me. Just building things and digging and stuff like that is not my.
Well, there in Minecraft, there's survival mode, which is the optimal way to play, and that is it's still you're building your own direction, but at the same time, it's one of the best survival games on the market still.
I don't like survival games. I find them boring also.
Wow.
So, I mean, I like survival horror. I like Resident Evil, stuff like that. But like, what's the?
Yeah, that's different though.
Yeah. What there's like.
You apparently never had a creeper come up and blow up right behind your ass.
No, because I've played Minecraft for like maybe an hour or so, and I'm like, oh, so I just chop down trees and build things and just try to find food and survive. I'm like, okay.
So kind of harking back to like the whole, games having surround sound and perception, and all that. So that having that something blow up right behind you is bad when you're listening to it on like a speaker.
Yeah.
When you suddenly have that hiss in your headphones though, and then half a second later, boom, that is a jump.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure if I played it on PC, I'm like, it's probably the best way to play Minecraft. I have not.
I own it on mobile, and it's rubbish in my opinion. And I've played it on console, and I'm like, this is awful. And so PC's really my preferred thing. Of course, in our prime, we had a Minecraft server for the Wraith team, and then also my D&D group, who are very similar. They're like half of the Wraith team is also plays D&D with me. So we had this big server that was running 100 mods, and it was literally designed to feel like our D&D game, and it was amazing.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, because we had because in my D&D game it's very steampunky, And I'm not gonna pull a Natalie for anyone who's listened to Game Over Game On. One of our team members, Natalie, was on, and she's very passionate about D&D, and so she talked for length for it. So I won't bore our audience with D&D for too long. But the thing was that in our tabletop RPG, it's kind of steampunky without the steam. And also not so many gears, like lots of airships and like flintlocks and trains and magic with very definitive rules. Because again, I'm a game designer, so when we play D&D, we don't actually play D&D. But it's a game that is dark and gritty, meets kind of that almost diesel punk aesthetic. And that's what we did in Minecraft. And we used like several mods to bump up the abilities of the creepers, and not the mobs. Like we used Diablo style monsters thing. We used a Deadlier Worlds mod. We used a Flintlock mod, and so we had like these really, really powerful monsters roaming around like these giant pre-built dungeons. And then we built like these huge like steampunk cities with like airships and trains and stuff. And it was a lot of fun. And the server got to be too expensive. So we ended up taking it out to pasture.
No, I mean, the final product of like the Minecraft stuff sounds awesome. It's just getting to that final product. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like I'm a grown ass man. I got 2 kids and a wife. I'm like, I don't have time for that. Like I'd rather.
Well, sorry.
Nah, it's all good. I was finished.
Like I certainly don't have time for it anymore either. Because keep in mind when Minecraft first came out, I was an early 20-something. So I was still building Wraith, but it was a lot slower than it is now. So I was kind of like a loafing layabout. But now I'm basically the only thing I do during the day is work and listen to podcasts while I work. So because Collapses isn't going to build itself.
No, you've got to build it before it can collapses. That was a terrible punny. Like that was a bad joke, but it was kind of.
That was Zoidberg level bad, man.
Yeah, that's all right. It's all good. I mean, hey, they all can't be just home runs. They can't be just out of the park.
So, have we exhausted the whole Twin Galaxies sort of thing?
Yeah, I said my piece. I find it's just sad in my opinion. That's all. I mean,
it is. It really is.
Evil dude from Hackers is evil. Even when he's playing Donkey Kong.
He is. Okay, so do we have anything else, or should we sign on out?
I'm good. What we gonna?
Well, you guys should take the opportunity to plug your projects. Yes. Let everyone know where to follow you on social media and things. And then why don't we tell everyone what we're going to do for the next episode?
Cajun, do you want to? Since you were introduced first, do you want to go first?
I'll let you go first since you went last. We'll switch positions on it.
Okay, that's what she said. Okay, so I'm like I said, Grant McClure, game host, creator of Game Over Game On. I recently started streaming. You can watch me on Twitch. It's usually on the weekends, Friday nights, Saturday nights, not tonight. 2 to 3 nights a week, usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or whatever. And I'm streaming Destiny 2 at the moment because that's the only game I play right now. But you can watch me at twitch.tv/Brigadoon564. That is BRINGADOON 564. The Twitter's the same thing. It's Brigadoon564. All that other stuff. I don't have any Twitch panels. I've been working on it. It just slowly built up. I've just been streaming mainly to get the feel of it. And it seems to be going decently. And you can watch, you can check out the Go-Go Show on YouTube. That's Game Over Game On YouTube. That's what we go by. And there's Twitter, Game Over Game On. My personal Twitter is Brigadoon564 on Twitter. And yeah, that's all I got to pimp.
You have a lot more than I do, man. So, again, I'm Cajun, is what you guys will see me everywhere as. If you happen to see just someone going by Cajun or Cajun Coding or Cajun Coder in some random mobile game, that's probably me. Not always, but usually. I am at Cajun_Coding on Twitter. That is my main social place. You can find IndieView Podcast in its current incarnation at IndieGameLaunchpad.io. It's a great place to keep up to date with new games and stuff like that. They've been an awesome host for me for a long time. I'm in talks with some other developments about the show coming up. You'll probably hear about that first here on this show. But it is unfortunately been on hiatus since last July or so due to being affected by Hurricane Harvey. I do have an episode that has gotten recorded. I'm waiting to find that file so I can release it and edit it and all that. But so stay tuned on that. Stay tuned to this show if you want to stay up to date with that as well. And again, Twitter is Cajun_Coding. And I'm Rocketbox Developer. Woohoo! Eventually I'll have a demo out. Jay.
And I am Jay Kidd. I am the creative director here at Wraith Games. You probably, entirely possibly that you found us through Wraith Games. We are a team of about 12 developers from just outside of Hamilton, Ohio, or just outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, in Hamilton. So we've been developing for quite a while. We're the creators of Collapsus and Radar Canoid and Jetpack Hero and Physics and a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to be at PAX East on April 5th through 8th as well, and you can come play our game. We actually have a huge announcement during that period of time. But you can find us wraithgames.com, also on Twitter at Wraith Games, on Facebook Wraith Games, on Instagram Wraith Games, all of it. We are very searchable. We even have a Wikipedia page, so very easy to find us. My personal Twitter is SIRKIDD2003, and that's just a way to get a hold of me if for whatever reason you do. But I do the tweeting and all the social media posts for Wraith Games. So, Grant, why don't you tell our wonderful, wonderful audience what we are doing next time?
Okay. So like Jay was saying in the beginning, our first pilot episode, and it's going to be bi-monthly. Well, it's going to be one episode is going to be news, and we're going to talk, and we're just going to catch up and, just hang out and talk.
A little correction onto that. We are bi-monthly. Bi-monthly means once every 2 months. Di-monthly would be twice a month.
Oh.
Unless I'm getting that wrong, in which case I'm the jerk.
I don't know,
and I'm sorry.
I don't know. I always the bi-weekly thing, like it was like, but I guess it's gonna be.
You're right. I got that mixed up. I am so sorry for interrupting you. Then
no, it's all good. It's all good. I just remember. Only way I remember is like paychecks. Like people get paid bi-weekly, so it's like every 2 weeks. So first episode, like Jay was saying in the beginning, is news and all that good stuff. The second episode of the month is going to be about a game we're playing, and it's usually, I guess, both of those episodes will have a guest. This episode's a pilot episode. We're working out the kinks and all that fun stuff.
I thought that our topic episodes would not have a guest. It was only the game episodes.
Okay. All right. So yeah, the game episodes we're going to have a guest, and I guess we'll probably talk about their game or whoever the guest and all that stuff. But it'll be mainly focused on whatever game we're going to be playing. And that game is I just picked it out because everyone was like, "Hey, this game's weird and it's hot," and it was hot right now when we finally decided to do this. But it's probably legions of people have played this game already. But it is Doki Doki Literature Club, and boy howdy, is it awesome! And it's free.
Now, normally, this would be where I would tell you to go to our Patreon and support the podcast. It's the Wraith Games Patreon. But it is not live yet as of this recording. It'll be live shortly after. That'll help us actually pay for the games that we play on air, as well as for our Podbean stuff and all that jazz. And also, it'll help with the development and event going and stuff for the Wraith Games Studio. So look for the future where we're going to be doing a Patreon. On top of that, here very, very shortly, we're going to begin doing Wraith Games streams of the games that we're playing. And then obviously Cajun and Grant are probably going to be streaming the stuff that we talk about on their channels as well. And like I said, each games episode we play entirely separately, so we exist in a vacuum, so we're able to come together and talk about them better.
Yeah, like you were saying, we play the game and then we come together and we discuss it. And I'm actually super interested for you to play this game, Jay, because there is some interesting coding stuff that could possibly be happening in the background. And I'm interested in your opinion on it. But the game is, again, Doki Doki Literature Club. It's on Steam. It's free. It's not for kids. There's a big mature thing. It's an adult game, not via nudity or anything, but it says it's a horror game, visual novel, real weird, but super awesome.
There's very psychological, mind twisty stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And there's another game that I'm going to refer to when we discuss it, but I'm super excited for the next episode.
Now, how this is going to work is for the first several episodes, we are going to be picking games that we just want to talk about. But when we launch this Patreon, it'll be up to you guys to decide what we do. And so for patrons, they get to vote on the next game we're going to play, and also for higher level patrons, they get to make calls as to what we will be playing on these podcasts.
That's cool.
Yeah. Once we launch that, I think you guys are going to be really excited.
Also, is there an email where if there's listeners who have played this game that they want to give in their 2 cents somewhere that they can email you at, or?
They most definitely can. And that would be podcast@wraithgames.com.
I was hoping you had something there. And like, in all honesty, I'm like, I hope he has something. I'm going to mention this. And I hope he is like, oh, crap.
No, I am always more prepared than that.
All right.
Sadly.
Yeah.
I am sadly always more prepared than that.
That's great. That's awesome, because my goal, bare minimum, because when you exceed, people are amazed, and when you're just at expectations, everyone's like, oh, hey, I expected that.
That's why I set my bar low.
Yeah. Then you're never disappointed.
The problem with Wraith Games is anyone who has ever seen us at a convention or read our Twitter or went to our website and read our blog or whatever knows that we always shoot for the moon, and somehow, I don't know how, but we have yet to fail. Anytime we set our minds on doing something, it just happens. And so that's how it's always hard work getting to that point, but we've not failed anything we actually wanted to do. Yeah. So
don't lie. You read you read the secret.
Because you have a damn good game, and Jay is a cult of personality in and of himself.
I appreciate that, because I don't know why people keep listening to the words that come out of my mouth, but apparently they do. So
you just read the secret. That's all you did, and you can be a success.
Do you know what so this is the longest in-slate in the history of ever.
Yeah.
I did read the secret, and it's garbage. It's hot garbage.
I think that's a good note to end on.
Yep. So this is Jay.
And Grant McClure.
And Cajun.
Signing out. Have a great night, everybody.
See ya.
Welcome to the Two Dudes and a Dev podcast. And I did that in reverse. I meant the Two Devs and a Dude podcast. And this is why we do a drive.
Keep it.
What I'll do is I could edit all this and put it on the end. Like, I could put like a 30-second silence part and then just put the bonus, like, flow. All of Jay's
bloopers are great.
Yeah. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Hi. Welcome to the Two Dudes and a Dev. God fucking damn it.
Please make out the final thing you hear in this episode.
That's great. Oh God. All right. 1, 2, 3.